Hi, everyone. Hi. Hello. Shh. Hi. Hello. 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 Welcome, everyone. I see my friends, lots of my friends in the chat. Amaris is one of them. I haven't talked to Amaris enough. She's not on Twitter anymore. I miss her so much. I'm so glad to see you. I'm always happy to see you in streams, Amaris. Okay, so Ishan isn't here yet. He's going to be here any minute. Hi, T-Bird. Hi, Hexin Effect. Hi, everyone. Okay, before Ishan gets here, I want to give you guys a couple of brief disclaimers about today's episode. Okay, so there's Ishan. Okay, so two disclaimers before I bring him in. One is Unreal Finance is a company that the company that I work for, LDA, represents. So you do need to know that in advance. The second thing is that because LDA represents Unreal, I was able to get in on the strategic round and they're SAFT. So I hold tokens that are not floating around in existence, as do other people. I want you to know that because that's just honest truth, okay? And the third thing is the title is totally clickbait. It says, could Unreal Finance be the first IDO to launch on Pulse? There's no reason to believe that will be the case. I really just did that to make more people be interested in it and watch the stream. Most of you know that that's a legitimate tactic. It's something Richard does, something that a lot of people do who have huge followings. So it's not to say that it won't happen. It's just that it's not confirmed. Nobody has committed to that. In fact, right now, I don't even know what launchpad is what the first launchpad on Pulse is going to be. So, with those disclaimers made, welcome Ishan. Hi, Ishan.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good as well. Thank you, and thank you for having me in this lovely show.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So I have so when Unreal came to LDA, I started to have some questions about how the protocol could be used to actually help, with my life and then potentially help with a lot of people who are part of the community that is the primary audience for this show. But before we get into that, I kind of wanted to ask, just some introductory questions like, who are you? How did you get into crypto? And what led you onto the journey to realize that a protocol like Unreal needed to exist?
Definitely. That's a quite common questions which people ask us. And so my journey in crypto started back in 2017. I was working in the banking sector. So I was working on the service side of one of India's largest bank, HDFC Bank, in the AI side of things. And what happened was that during the 2017, we saw that really big bull rally of Bitcoin where CC Bitcoin hitting 20K. And that got me curious, like what was Bitcoin? Like there is this asset which everyone's making money out of. Uh, what is it? I didn't know that. I'm in the banking sector. I am looking at these bonds, these insurance stuff, but there's nothing. I didn't know anything about Bitcoin at that point. So I decided to take a plunge. Decided, okay, I started reading all the Bitcoin white paper, just started hanging around in forums. And I really like the concept of Bitcoin, a decentralized currency which cannot be controlled. And that caused me to actually quit my job and enter this market full time. So I started with actually starting a small blog and running it. And after that, I joined OKEX. OKEX, the global exchange, was launching in India. So I joined as the second employee, I would say, at OKEX, and I rose up the rank to actually be the business development head for OKEX India. And so that gave me an experience of cryptocurrencies as well as the exchange side of things, how things work on the exchange side. And I was working on OKX for more than 2 years, and then this DeFi summer happened back in 2020, and that again got me curious. Like everyone else, I was also into yield farming, just exploring what can be done, how to make some extra cash, and that's when the frustration hit me that the yields were always constantly fluctuating. So you would see the yields going up someday and the yields mostly coming down. then they would suddenly rise up as well. And being from an exchange background, the idea was, is there a way to short it, or is there a way to actually lock your funds? Exchanges, central exchanges, have been doing a really great job and doing all sorts of things, but something like this wasn't there in the world of DeFi, right? So the idea came, why not you create derivatives based directly based on this future yield? And these future yield derivatives, traders can now speculate on the interest rate directly in a more safer environment. And secondly, the idea is it also unlocks potential for you to potentially lock in your interest rate. So you can take a short position, effectively locking in the interest rate and getting the interest rate upfront. So this was something unique, and we kind of took the plunge and started working on it. So this is like a
Okay.
brief intro on what Unreal is, my journey, and how Unreal came about in existence.
Okay, great. All right, so so a brief introduction to Unreal. I think what I've told the audience and what most people probably know is that Unreal, and maybe I'm even getting this wrong, is that Unreal is a method of tokenizing yields so that you can realize them before they've matured. Is that right? Or how would you rephrase or restructure what I just said to briefly describe Unreal?
Oh, you got it exactly right. So you can actually tokenize the future yield, and through these tokenized future yields, which are their value is directly backed by the future yield, right? So a bunch of avenues are opening up. For example, something similar to interest rate swaps, which is in traditional market, opens up in the world of DeFi. And secondly, it also allows the ability to lock in their interest rate. And if you look at more further down in the future, you can also open these DeFi hedges, DeFi insurance, which can be now created through Unreal. So if you have to define Unreal, Unreal is like laying I would say, the groundwork for utilizing the future yield.
Okay. So I've heard you say before that Unreal is meant to be an added layer on top of DeFi. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by that? Or do you think that what you just said is like sufficient?
Oh, true. So the thing is that we are not a base layer. Base layer, I would say, would be Aave, these yield farming protocols, Compound. These are the money market protocols. They take your funds, they allow you people to borrow stuff. So those are base layer protocols. We Unreal, on the other hand, is directly dependent on that. So we are not a base layer protocol, but rather we are a layer on top of these base layer protocols, these money market protocols, these yield farming protocols. So then we are directly dependent on that. We are making them more efficient. We're not competing with them. We're just making them more efficient, more able to actually people can use Unreal to make their DeFi life much more efficient.
Okay. So Unreal hasn't launched yet. And, one thing, I don't know, this is a series of questions, I guess. Which aspects of Unreal are you planning to integrate initially at launch? And what chains or side chains and layers are you planning to lock on? Or sorry, are you planning to operate on, and with what kind of lockup periods?
We will be releasing more details shortly. But in terms of the chain which we are initially targeting, we are targeting Ethereum and Polygon. One of the things is Ethereum is the base layer protocol. They have the best money markets in DeFi right now. So definitely we want to support them. And recently we have seen a rise in Polygon based projects. We have seen like Aave shifting to Polygon, Balancer shifting to Polygon. So we have seen a rise in those really huge Ethereum projects shifting to Polygon, and Polygon being fast as it is opens up new opportunities for low cost yields as well. Apart from that, because we are an Ethereum based, EVM based project, we can actually further expand to other EVM based chains, and we plan to do it in the future as just as the moment the money markets or these base layer protocols gain traction, that's when Unreal would come in.
Okay, so I know that we've talked really briefly about the upcoming fork of the state of Ethereum ecosystem, which is Pulse Chain. And you've said that, if there's sufficient reason for Unreal to operate there, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to do that, right? They're about
True.
interoperability and
True.
cross-chain compatibility and all of that.
True. True. So
Cool.
directly we are, as I mentioned previously, that we are directly dependent on the state of the base layer. If the base layer is big, good, and robust, Unreal will work flawlessly on that. But
Mhm.
if the base layer is not that robust, like you can see the rug pulls happening, or it's not just stable. Automatically, people wouldn't want to use Unreal as well on that layer. So for us, the base layer has to be really great so that Unreal can sit on top of that.
Sure, that makes sense. You would want to make sure that the protocol that Unreal is sitting on is stable.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so now I kind of want to get into my personal question about if it's possible. So, like people like me who've been in crypto for a long time are unbanked, and maybe don't have the I don't know, not the means, but like the necessary, I don't know, requirements that would suit like a traditional mortgage, but and I kind of have asked you this in a roundabout way several times. What if someone had enough collateral in stable coins to purchase a house outright, but because those stable coins were earning yield, they didn't want to take it out and make that full payment. Is there any way that Unreal's protocol could be used to self-collateralize a mortgage?
True, true, true. That is one of the future aim of us of Unreal. So that's like our vision to do that. So as you know, in the banking sector, right? If you look at the whole world history, fractional reserve was one of the best invention in the entire history of finance. Through fractional reserve, more liquidity came into the market, right? And because of this more liquidity, uh, you could see that the middle class, the upper class, the basically the modern world is currently dependent on the fractional reserve. In DeFi, something like similar to fractional reserve hasn't come, and it's quite tough to implement it as well. Fractional reserve is possible because there's a centralized entity masking what's going on behind, so that you know that okay, your money, the trust system, right? Your money is safe. We don't care what we are doing with it. But you cannot do that with DeFi because anyone can see what's going with the money in the thing. But DeFi has something really interesting which the current money market, the current traditional finance does not have, and that is this yield generation. So as you rightly pointed out, your yield is being generated by these stable coins. So why not up your value of your stable coin, up your present value of your stable coins? Say, for example, you have $100 in stable coin, which is making around 20% yield. So why not you take a loan of 120 USD? So that means you automatically got an exposure 20% because of your yield. And this is what Unreal is trying to bring. So it's similar to something like under collateralized loan, which Unreal is bringing to the market.
Okay, so this is a future potential function.
Exactly.
Okay. Man, I was really hoping that you were going to tell me that there was a way to do this like right now. So,
We really wished, but unfortunately, the groundwork hasn't been laid yet. So the technology hasn't caught up. So first, Unreal will start laying the groundwork so that once the groundwork is done, it's easy to implement this.
okay. All right. So we have a question from the audience, and let's see if I can scroll back and find it. It's a question for you. Here, let's see. Sorry. All right. So someone says, from the perspective of viewing it as a speculative instrument that can be traded, is a tokenized future yield realized now have the potential to be a destructive mechanism to get wrecked?
Not really. As long as I mentioned, that if the protocol remains, the underlying protocol remains stable, Unreal would be stable. And ultimately, it depends on the fact that how stable the protocol is. If the protocol has high yield value and low lockups and high fluctuations, of course, Unreal wouldn't perform perfectly well. But if you look at say a really stable protocol, say like for example Aave or Compound, where it's easy to actually know for sure what the interest rate or the API is going to be. So it's easy to actually Unreal would be perform very well. It will be stable, but ultimately it all depends on the base protocol.
Okay, got it. All right. So in preparation for this interview, I asked you to do a little bit of reading, and I know that you're a busy person, but the reason that I asked you to, look a little bit into Hex was because, the primary audience for this show are people who are interested or invested in Hex and often have it time locked for a long time, for up to 15 years. And I was curious about the possibility for integrating Unreal with for hex yields, for unrealized hex yields that are time locked. Is that something that is is that an Unreal question, or is that something that is more like an Aave compound question?
I would say that's more like an Aave compound question. Unreal can be built on top of it, but it depends on how the underlying protocol is working.
Okay. So it would depend on how the protocol works. Can you expand a little bit on that?
So what Unreal does is that Unreal basically tokenizes the future yield. So for example, let's give you an example of Aave. So Aave, say your DAI deposit makes around 5% APY on Aave. Based on those 5%, Unreal mints these future yield tokens whose value is directly derived from the Aave, the your deposit, which is generating yield on Aave. So that's how Unreal works. These future yields whose value is directly derived from the value of a DAI with your locked DAI. So something like this. This is how Unreal performs. So if this mechanism is in place, it's easy to actually implement it on all other EVM chains.
Okay. All right. I got it. All right, so Dartan's asked me to give a shout out to his guinea pigs. Please shout out to Dartan's guinea pigs, and thank you for the $20 super chat. All right, here's a new question for you from the audience. Is Unreal a token?
Unreal isn't a token, it's a protocol. We have a token called Unreal Governance Token. It is like the native token of Unreal, which will be used for governance as well as platform fees.
Okay, awesome. Hey, anybody else who has questions, feel free to drop them in the comments over here, because I'm almost out. And my next question for Ishan is, do you have any questions for me about some of the preliminary reading that you did about Hex or Pulse, or anything that about the, either of the protocols?
Definitely. I really wanted to I found Hex curious. I really found the community quite vibrant and quite, I would say, eager for Hex to be onboarded on Hex. So I really want to understand, where do you see Hex going? What you see are the big protocols which people do not know about yet, and on how they can actually be helpful for the Hex community, and if whether Unreal can be integrated with them.
Yeah, okay. So Hex itself is a token that's built on top of Ethereum. And it's actually a high yield certificate of deposit on the blockchain. So the way that it works is that you purchase your tokens, just like you would others. They're only available on decentralized exchanges. And then you can choose to hold them liquid and then just realize the value. Some people choose to trade it, and then there are other people who, instead of holding it liquid, choose to stake the asset, just like you would a CD. And the longer that you have your asset staked for, the higher the yield that you earn on it is. So if you lock it for 15 years, you're earning more interest than if you lock it for 1. The interest is paid only in Hex, so there's no real guarantee about the value of the Hex token going up. I mean, so far it's been performing amazingly well. I think you've probably had a look at the chart and are aware. I think it's performing amazingly well because it's an amazing product. It's a complete, fully functioning smart contract. So it is fully decentralized. There's no admin keys. There's no one who can change the protocol. It's not upgradable. It's done. The reason we've got questions from Jack coming in, so I'll get to those after I answer this. The reasons that Pulse Chain is launching as a fork of Ethereum is because a lot of the early Hex stakes that were coming due, particularly when Ethereum was like just, out of control and there were so many transactions on the network, potentially from bots. We're not sure, right? But like that's the theory is that bots start transacting heavily on Ethereum and drive the gas prices up. So there were the fees on ending stakes were so high that people who had staked from the beginning of Hex 1 year, 1.5 years were unable to pay their gas fees. And they were compounded by the Berlin update. So the founder of Hex said, we're going to fork the state of Ethereum. And then not only is everyone going to get a duplicate of their Ethereum, they're going to get a duplicate of every ERC20 and ERC771 that they hold in their own custody. And the real purpose of Pulse is to make Ethereum it is a fork of Ethereum. It's a modified layer 1. It's fully proof of stake instead of proof of work. And that is how the plan is to make the transactions cheaper, to make gas fees far less expensive. Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. All right. So Jack works for LDA and he's got some great questions and we're going to definitely get to them. So here we go. All right. Yeah. Jack says, this isn't a question, it's a comment. One cool thing about this is that if you get your yield up front, you can then go ahead and reinvest that yield. So over time. So it's like supercharged yield. Yeah, totally. That's very cool. And then let's see. Jack also would like to know if you guys are planning to work with institutions in the future.
Yes, definitely. In fact, Unreal as a product is more apt for institutionals or big players than the small retail investors. DeFi allows them small retailers to also use the potential of Unreal, but the most value add which Unreal is going to bring is to these institutional guys. So let me give an example. So currently you have, the yields on DeFi are quite high and they are around 5-10%, while the traditional banks are giving less than 0.03%. So the idea is that why aren't these traditional banks going to DeFi, right? One of the things which is actually lacking right now, I don't know if traditional banks would be interested, but these neo banks can definitely are looking into DeFi to actually get into the DeFi and start generating higher returns, even for their users. But the only problem with DeFi has been the huge amount of fluctuations in the yield. So someone, say a neo bank, enters a yield farm hoping that they would make around 50% APY, but due to the fluctuations and the general people coming in, you see the yields dropping to say 5% APY. Now automatically what will happen is that uh, as an institution, as a neobank is here in like an institution, right? They cannot actually commit to their customers. So one of the things these bank traditional finance people do is they give you a fixed commitment. Okay, we are going to give you 5% APY, or we're going to give you 4% APY. And the DeFi protocols cannot do that fixed commitment yet. Unreal actually bridges the gap between them. Through Unreal, people can take a short position, the institutional banks can take a short position in those yields and get the interest rate upfront, thus effectively locking in the interest rate. And through that, through Unreal, these banks, these neo banks, can commit to their users. So this one area we do think that will be really beneficial, and it can actually help bridging the centralized finance and DeFi world together.
Great. That's something that a lot of people are working on right now, bridging the gap between decentralized finance and traditional finance. And that's going to be necessary before we see really like huge influxes, right?
Sure.
Okay, so there's a few people who are commenting and about things that I need to clarify. Someone says it's a copy of Hex, not Ethereum. That's actually not true. Pulse is Pulse Chain is a duplicate of the state of Ethereum network. So while you will get a copy of your Hex, both liquid and staked, you will also get a copy of your Ethereum and every other ERC20 and ERC771 token that you hold in your custody. And then let's see. Yeah. Pulsing, Richard deserves what? What does that have to do with anything? Okay. All right. So I think that's what I needed to get to. Oh, someone wanted me to make sure to tell you that right now the interest rates on Hex are 50 to 60%. Those are the APYs.
Oh
I
Yes,
know. I know. And they're paid in Hex. And the reason for that is that the way that Hex interest is paid is through the token's locked inflation. It has a locked annual inflation of 3.69%. And then that's distributed to the stakers. However, since not 100% of Hex in circulation is staked, those who are staked are receiving huge interest.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's actually for long stakes. It's necessary that that if you have staked for 1 year, you're earning a lower interest rate. I think right now it's around 15%, but those for 10 plus year stakes are earning 40 to 50% APY right now, and then that automatically compounds.
True.
Because of the time locking. So yeah, they wanted me to make those points clear. Guys, in the comments, any more questions, drop them now. Ishan, I always want to close with, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you that you want to share?
Oh, not really, Nicole. You are really a great host. You asked all the major points which were supposed to be asked, and you touched them all. And thank you actually for that.
No, thank you so much for being here. Did you have any more questions that you wanted to ask me?
I am good at the moment.
Okay, awesome. So I close always with this. Hex has been really controversial, and that's sort of starting to fade a little bit as time has gone by, and more people are seeing the way that the protocol function, or the way that the product functions. But I always like to ask people if they will build a bridge with me, because the name of my show is Building Bridges. Will you build a bridge with me?
You're asking me or the comment?
I'm asking you.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, we will look into it.
Okay, so the way that this works best is the opposite of the way that you think it's going to be. And I find it's best to go across your body so that we're building, you see?
No.
Yeah, the opposite. Yep, there you go.
Oh,
awesome.
The camera is messed up.
Okay, can you pull back just a little bit so that we can see it for the camera? There we go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you for being my guest. Thank you all for watching. And I'll see you on Wednesday night. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.